again, everybody. This is Joe Larsen, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show. Welcome to another night of racing, racing talk, I should say. Not a lot happening in the racing world. Most of the weekly stuff is done. A lot of the dirt stuff is done. We're moving into the banquet series now. A lot of the banquets are being scheduled and planned. Pretty much that's pretty much it. There's one race left in the top 3 series, the Sprint Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Camping World Truck Series. That'll be at Homestead. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. Some interesting happenings at Phoenix. You know, it's funny, a day race becomes a night race because it rained in the desert, I mean, torrential downfall, Paul. They had more rain that day than they had all year in Phoenix. But we'll talk about that in a little while. We'll talk about the chat that Matt Kenseth had with NASCAR Chairman and CEO Brian France. So that was an interesting talk from what I understand. But not a lot going on in the racing world. We got the Formula One Grand Prix was down in Brazil. They ran this past weekend. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet in the racing world. We're into that part of the year when it comes to racing. Some people call it the silly season, where people talk about who's going where, who's doing what, not only in the top series, but down in the lower series as well. A lot of rumors out there, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of people talking stuff. It's just one of those things. It's that time of year. You know, it's funny. For those of you who don't know, I belong to an organization called SAFER, the Suffolk Association of Figure 8 Racing. And this would be about the time, although it's been quiet and safer for the past season, but this would be the time of year they started talking about next year. What's going on next year? What's going to be the schedule? How many races we're going to get? How many cars we're going to have? And the thing that always kind of bugged me about having these discussions, you know, it was everything that was out of their control. They had no say in that. So, but we'd have a meeting every the third Tuesday of the month. We'd talk about, you know, we need this many races, that many races. And let's face it, guys and gals, and the racetrack's going to make their decision. And, you know, is it going to be 8, is it going to be 10, is it going to be 12, whatever it's going to be. When the schedule comes out, you'll find out. You know, rule changes. You know, let's go, we need this rule, we need that rule. You know, years ago, when I first got into SAFER, back in, I'm thinking 76. I started attending meetings in 76, became a member in 77, and was on the board in 78 as a sergeant of arms, believe it or not. So I've been around. I've been doing this a pretty long time, as we all know. And I can remember as a sergeant of arms, I had to go around, and everybody had to sign in. We used to have these meetings in the back room of a little pub/restaurant called the Firehouse Pub in St. James, owned by Vinnie Pulio, whose family had figure 8 cars back in the 60s and the 70s. And we'd have like 100 people come to these meetings, 80 to 100 people. Because let's face it, there was 50, 60 cars that showed up to go racing in figure 8s back then. So we'd have these meetings, and back then, the organization had juice. Back in ISO Speedway, they had the modifieds and the figure 8s. Once in a while, they'd have the midgets. Once in a while, they'd have like a circus show and farm animals racing and demolition derbies. And I remember a football demolition derby where they put a car in the middle, and it was red cars on one side of the track, white cars on the other side. It was really why they called it football. It should have been called soccer, but that's okay. We all got the idea. But SAFER had a little bit of juice back then. SAFER the organization, the board, would take ideas from the membership and go to the owners or the promoters and talk about things and talk to the officials. And they had juice back then. But it's hard to have juice when you only have 10 cars. You know, back then it was 50, 60 cars, and it was more than half of the cars that signed into the racetrack. See, and they don't have that anymore. And I think what has happened is the small amount of guys and gals that are involved with figure 8 racing today. There's a lot going on that they can't go to meetings, and you know, and it kind of fizzled. SAFER kind of fizzled, which is kind of sad in a way, because that was what it was all about. You know, where Yeah, exactly. 22 figure eight hit the nail right on the head. We'd be sitting at these meetings, and he sat through some of these things. Oh, we're gonna have 20 cars next year. We're gonna have 24 cars, and then they go around the room, and people would start talking. Well, this guy, this guy has a car, and what about that guy? And I remember sitting there. I was getting frustrated, and it doesn't take much. I was getting frustrated, and I said, instead of sitting around this room talking about who has a car and what they might do, why doesn't somebody just call them? Why didn't somebody just call? And that's what we finally end up doing. And unfortunately, the car counts are still low. And I don't understand that. And I didn't plan to have this show to become a talk about figure eight stock car driving. But figure eight racing, if you're looking to go race and have a good time, that's the place to go, especially here on Long Island, because they're not like the figure eight cars that you would see at like other racetracks in the Northeast. For those who don't know, the figure eight cars that race on Long Island are pretty much late models. They look like late models. They're taken care of. Guys, crease a fender. They come back next week. That car is pristine. Some of the old guys that did that. Bill Steen, Roger Maynard. His cars always look good. The late Kenny Hyde Sr., now Kenny Hyde Jr., following his footsteps, doing the same thing. The cars always look good. They get wrecked or whatever, hit the wall, or tear off a fender or a bumper cover. They took care of it and they come back. Not like years ago, you got the hammer out, you banged the dents, and you went back racing. But these cars are awesome looking cars. And the payoff that they get, the payout, now I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think it's somewhere around $450 for a win, which at the local racetrack here in Long Island, that was more than what the late models were getting. And the late models were a heck of a lot more expensive to put on the racetrack between the motors and whatnot. But I've always said to people, no matter what division you're in, and this is going to lead into something else, no matter what division you're in, and you race at a racetrack that has 3 divisions, 5 divisions, 7 divisions, whatever they have, it costs, whether you drive the lowest entry-level car or the feature series, your pit fee is the same. Your fuel bill is pretty much the same, and other than like on the modifieds, your tires cost the same. So now you want a return on that. So I don't understand why somebody would race in a division where they spent the same amount of money to get there, where they're going to race in a division that's like $100 to win, and believe me, there are divisions that have that, where last doesn't even cover the pit fee. Why wouldn't you drive a figure eight car? You could make money driving a figure eight car. My daughter, Jessica, she drove a figure eight car, and she just rode around. And here was the plan. When they start crisscrossing, your race is done. And we go up to the payoff window and get $100 or $120. One night, $140 to ride around. Now, some people say, well, I don't go to the racetrack to run. Absolutely not. But you know what? The figure eight car was paying for the cost on the other car that we had. So we were riding around. We were racing the other car, riding around with the figure eight car. And then I had a driver drive for me who could get a car on. Brian Cicella, Jay Slice's brother is usually on the show, watching. I remember the first night he ran the car, I'm going to say he backed into a 4th place finish because only 5 cars finished the race. It was a wreck fest. And it was his first figure eight race, and I said to him, Brian, this is what you need to do. We're not geared to go racing. We don't have the right gears. Because the transmission, the transmission I was given, I was told it was one set of gear ratios. It turned out to be another. So we didn't have the right gear ratio. So I said, just ride around. All of a sudden, there's 5 cars left on the racetrack, but we're at halfway. So he backed into a 4th place finish. Well, we made more money on that 4th place finish that night than we made the whole entire previous year in the blunderbuss division. He's hooked. He thinks this is a great thing. But anyway, getting back into the money. A lot of people say, I don't race for the money. You know what? If you're going to be there and you're going to do laps, whether it's here on Long Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, wherever it is, you want to get something out of it, no matter what your deal might be, right? But you want to get something out of it. So anyway, I don't understand why more cars, especially with all the Charger cars here on Long Island that are all of a sudden up for sale because the division is not going to be around. Why wouldn't those guys convert those cars to figure eight cars? It's not hard. Not hard. It's an oil pan change, move a couple of control arms, maybe get, some of the guys run shorter ones on the left, long ones on the right, whatever. Get the car square, go race and make some money. But you're not going to sell it as a Charger car. It's not going to sell. And I don't mean to say that to be mean. The handwriting's been on the wall for years. When the owners of the racetrack, wow, time flies. 12 years ago when I was there, had trouble distinguishing between Chargers and late models. The fans do too. And I'm not saying that to be a wise guy. That's a fact. That's a fact that if Gravel comes on the show later, he'll be able to confirm that. But they looked exactly the same to the casual fan. And so why wouldn't these guys go figure eight race? I don't know. I'm pumping the figure eight division here tonight because, here on Long Island, because I love figure eight racing. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting, and you can make money. And I know we're driving the figure eights who was, based on money earned one year. He won the championship, and if you add up everybody's winnings, everybody's winnings, look at everybody's winnings in the modifieds, the late models, and all the other divisions. I believe he was the third highest money winner. Now, considering that the modifieds were getting like $1,500 to win, it was like $1,250 for second, and then $1,000 for third. For him to be the third, or maybe even the fourth highest earner at the racetrack that year, that tells you how good of a payoff the figure eight division has. And and they're good-looking cars. They're sharp-looking cars, and. I only saw a handful of figure eight races this year. I think I only saw one. Because, I was traveling around doing my dirt track stuff and doing stuff for the show. But when you look at some of these cars are gorgeous. Gorgeous. And you could park them up to a late model and ask a casual fan who's never been there, which one of these is a late model, and they'll probably say both. But guys, like I said, always had good-looking cars. And, and then there's the old 57 Chevy car driven by Gary Fritz Jr., and it brings back memories. I wish somebody would come out with an old 56 Ford, a 57 Chevy, but a 56 Ford. I'd love to see an old Crown Vic out there, or the old Plymouth that Andy Rohde used to have with the fins in the back, and you look back in the times and, go back to those days, the simpler times when there was a ton of figure eight cars. And that's how we started talking about this, and all the guys that went to Safer. There was a ton of figure eight cars where qualifying was, making the show sometimes is better than winning the race. Because there would be, think about it, they're going to start 24 cars, there's 70 in the pit area. Taking 5 out of the 4 heats, that's 22 out of each console. So that's 30 cars at least that are in the console. I started 33rd in the console one time. 33rd in the console to take into. My friend Bill said to me, "Why are you bothering?" I said, "Because I came to race." But 22 figure eight Charger guys would love the action. The X isn't like, it's not like it used to be, right? And there is concentration. The amount of concentration to drive in figure eight car and get into rhythm is hard, and you do learn how to do that. And I can remember when the figure eight course was underwater due to the excessive snows in the winter and the rains, and there was no figure eight racing for a couple of months. A couple of the figure eight guys ran with the Chargers, oval track racing, and they got off the racetrack. Some of them didn't even crack a sweat, and some of them were like, "This is boring." Nothing against the guys who go oval track racing. Believe me, everybody has their niche. But when you're a figure eight driver, your mind, you're thinking all the time. You're going, your head moving. And when you go into a corner, you're looking at the far corner. Is it clear? Yeah, it's clear, I can go. Is it not clear? Am I faster than that guy? Am I slower than that guy? A lot of decisions have to be made. And then you go down and you go to the other corner, you do it again. And as my uncle, the late Johnny Kraft, said to me one time, he goes, yeah, it's a 15-lap race back in those days. It was a 15-lap race, but you're crisscrossing the X 30 times. It was fun. It was good days, good times. I have a lot of good memories from figure eight racing. Met a lot of good people. Had some bad memories, met some bad people too, but the good always outweighs the bad. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some good stuff. We're going to talk about some of the stuff going on in NASCAR when we come back.
Hey, this is Chris Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
It's always been important to us to have music a part of our lives, part of our children's lives. At Village Music Shop, Bonnie and Chuck have not only made it possible for our kids to learn and understand and read music and enjoy playing a musical instrument, but they've also made it fun.
I really like coming here. I like coming to Village Music because everybody here is nice.
And they've inspired some creativity and imagination and taught them discipline. And along the way, they've gotten some self-confidence, really been like a part of our family.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Mark Well. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you're punching the. But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Broadcasting live from Inravio's Studio C here in New York, Mastic, New York, as a matter of fact. It's a good place to be. Anyway, there's no secret about Matt Kenseth's suspension and his two-race thing, and it's over. He's served his penalty, did his time. But NASCAR chairman and CEO Brian France and Joe Gibbs Racing's driver Matt Kenseth met last week in Charlotte, North Carolina, in advance of Kenseth's return following his two-race suspension. According to NASCAR.com, Brett Jukes, NASCAR Senior Vice President and Chief Communications Officer, tweeted, and I quote, "Brian was pleased with the dialogue." What do you think? Is Kenseth going to go in there and be all negative and be all cocky? What's he going to do? He's going to be humble. The CEO and chairman of his sanctioning body, is calling him in for a meeting. Was he going to go in there and say, I'll do it again, I'll kill him, you suspend me again? No, he's going to be all humble. Of course he's going to be pleased with the dialogue. Think about it. Think about your own job. The head guy of the company you work for calls you into his office, says, we need to talk. You're going to be real humble. Now, the funny part about it is that, he's on probation for the rest of 2015. There's one race left. So what happens if he does something bad at Homestead? Or, as I've been told by trained professionals, unacceptable. Because you don't want to say bad. Unacceptable. So what are you going to do? Suspend it for the rest of the year? It's over. What are you going to say? You can't come to the banquet? I mean, come on. A little ridiculous. But, I've been reading a lot of stuff in racing papers, social media, I said last week, they created this now. Everybody's going to watch Homestead to see what Kansas is going to do. And why wasn't Danica suspended for her actions? Let's back up a little bit. Why was Logano suspended for his actions, what he did to Kenseth at Kansas? Why do the powers to be, and I'm not going to say NASCAR, I'm going to say it in general, why do the powers to be, when it comes to any sport organization, let this guy do it and this guy not do it? What causes that? You got to be consistent. And when I say you have to be consistent, you know, like I said, there's rules in the world of life. Big traffic rules. The light's red. You go to the vehicle and traffic law book. You run a red light. Here's the first offense. This is the fine. This is the penalty. Second offense. This is the fine. This is the penalty plus a little extra. In the rule book of the vehicle and traffic laws, it doesn't say, except for this guy, or it doesn't list a bunch of names. This guy hit hard, and these guys just give him a little slap on the hand warning. No, it's the same for everybody, and that's what irks me with a lot of these decisions and penalties that not only that NASCAR hands down, and trust me, it's a hard decision to make sometimes. There's a lot involved, and as a behind the scenes or a former behind the scenes guy, I know how hard that could be to sit there and say, you know, what do we do? What do we do? Back then, I guess it was, I don't know, 1999, maybe 2000, one of the largest sponsors at Riverhead Raceway, it was a company organization, I should say, Big Brothers Big Sisters in Long Island. John Wellman was their man. John Wellman had billboards at the racetrack, sponsored nights, sponsored a bunch of cars, and his driver got into it with somebody, or they got into it with him on the racetrack, and as he was being towed off, he gave the other competitor half a peace sign. The cover of next week's program, the following week, was that picture. There's the car emblazoned on the side, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Long Island, and there's the driver sitting on the door, well, and we're giving him a half a peace sign. Now, I had already had dialogue with the promoters, with NASCAR, and with, out of respect to this sponsor, John Wellman, I had called him and said, John, I got a little situation. You're a big sponsor here. You bring a lot to the racetrack. You bring cars to the racetrack. There's a lot of people racing that wouldn't be racing if it wasn't for you. But I have to do a penalty. Before I finished talking, he said, that's it, throw him out for the year because I'm pulling my deal. Well, that's a little harsh. I'm not going to suspend the guy for the year because, you know, intentionally hit another car and give him a half a peace sign. Nope, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. But that's what you need to do. Now, I couldn't do that because I had to go back to my index cards and say, all right, what the other, because I had index cards. Every time a competitor, a crew chief, a car owner, crew member came into my office to discuss the situation, I had index cards. Okay, the guy would leave and I get the card out and I go, okay, Goggles Paisano, it's June 12th, it's 11:45 p.m., he's with car, 0, and we talked about this, and this is the outcome. If there was a penalty given out, I can go back to those things and say, what did I give that guy for that? Oh, yeah, it was this. And the other thing I would do, because there was a driver, I'm not going to say his name, there was a guy that he was probably in my office so much that he had his own chair. And me and my other officials, we used to joke about that, and yeah, have your chat. And one day he walks in and he goes, Joe, I'm never in here. I hope I destroy. I get out my little box and I said, well, you were here this day, you were here this day, you were here this day. He goes, well, those are for other reasons. But I kept track of it because you have to be consistent. Now, I might have been consistently wrong about some of my decisions, but as Joe Hartman, a former driver here on Long Island, said to me, at least we knew what was going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen in the big world of racing anymore because decisions aren't the same. It was the same race at Martinsville. do the same race, the same set of eyes watching from the tower above. And one driver does it, and they just get a little fine. And people say 50,000. That's how. When you're making millions, 50,000 a little fine. Another guy who's 10 laps down takes out, a chase contender. Wow, they want to bar the guy for the rest of his life. They give him a 2-week suspension. Consistency. No matter what level, you need to be consistent. You need to, when I say you, I don't mean you who are here on the show watching. I mean the powers to be have to say, all right, what have we done in the past? Now, sometimes you have to send a message. If it's the guy second, third, fourth, that same thing. Yeah, you got to send a message. Hey, we're not going to tolerate this nonsense. We've spoke to you 3 times already, and that's one of the things that's missing today. It was on social media. They had a picture of the late Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip, and it was like, man, if we got suspended every time we got into it with each other, taking each other out, we'd be racing. We would race half the year. But that's part of the game. And you know what? I don't see anything wrong with. You know what? You and I have a beef. We've tried to settle it the right way. It isn't happening. Let's settle on a racetrack. Did I really say that? Yeah, I did. But I'm not condoning wrecking guys on purpose and get hurt. But man, I remember going up to the officials one time when I was racing, because the same guy wrecked me 3 weeks in a row. I got real good at changing right front A-frames, because in the fence 3 weeks in a row and nothing was happening. Maybe the first time was my fault, but the second and third, it was a deliberate and intentional wrecking. And I talked to the officials, and one of the officials, well, maybe if you weren't in his way, that wouldn't happen. So I had to take it upon myself. So at Ice Speedway, I'm in the Consi. Imagine that. I was in the Consi every week because I never qualified. But that's okay. So I'm in the Consi, and I'm in the back of the Consi because I finished in the back of my heat race. And the guy who did this to me was in the front row, clearly going to qualify. He was taking 2. And midway through the race, I look in the mirror, and I'm going into turn 3, and I see him in the mirror coming out of. I see the leaders. I go under the flag stand. I didn't get to move over flag yet. Go through 1 and 2. I'm down the back, and I see he's getting a little bit closer. Now we see Ray Martuano. He's got the flag in his hand, and he's getting ready. He goes, the next time they're going to show it to me. Next time around, sure enough, move it over. I'll move it over. So I moved as low as I can go. And that guy's here, and I'm here. We go down the back stretch, and he's coming. And I just give him a little bump because I'm going to be, I'm going to send him. So I sent him. Now we rolled around in the pavement in the pit area after. But the funny thing was, he never hit me again. Never. He didn't bump me. He didn't thump me. He didn't rub me as he went by. Because I took care. The officials didn't do it. I took care of it myself. I still didn't qualify for any races that year. But that guy, when I tell you, he never touched my race car again. He never touched my car again. Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. I wasn't looking to hurt the guy. I needed him to have a bent A-frame like I had 3 of them sitting in my garage. Kenseth had enough of this guy's nonsense. He checked him up on a restart earlier, which caused him to be, laps down. So he's frustrated. Think about it. We're all saying, no, I shouldn't have done that. Come on. If you were in his shoes that day, you would have did the same thing. You would have took care of business. But Homestead will be interesting. 4 guys are in it. Kenseth is back. Let's see how that goes. We'll talk about Phoenix when we come back.
What's up, guys? We're Scared on Fair, and we're here with Inravio. If they catch you at a show with one of these bracelets, you will win $100.
That's a lot of money.
So get a bracelet.
Do whatever it takes to get that. Hit them up online.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Russ Weller. We're some of the Proto Men. If we see you without this bracelet, you're punching the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit hansoncarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, welcome back. Hey, before we get into Phoenix, the Formula One Brazilian Grand Prix was held in Brazil this past weekend. The winner of that, Nico Rosberg, was the winner. Lewis Hamilton was second, followed by Sebastian Vettel. Kimi Räikkönen was fourth. Valtteri Bottas was fifth, followed by Nico Hülkenberg. Daniil Kvyat was seventh. Felipe Massa eighth. Romain Grosjean was ninth, and Max Verstappen was 10th. The points as they stand as right now, Lewis Hamilton is the point leader, followed by Nico Rosberg. Sebastian Vettel is third. Valtteri Bottas is fourth, and Kim Räikkönen was fifth. So the Formula One Grand Prix. Formula One cars, I'll tell you, if you want to see a good movie on Formula One, Rush. Awesome, awesome movie. Awesome movie. Anyway, Phoenix, the desert, rained. A day race became a night race. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? They'll find rain all weekend at the Phoenix racetrack this past weekend. Rain shortened the event, 93 laps to go. Rain came down, downpour. There was nothing more they could do. It's time to call it. It's late. Been there all day. When the race was called, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the leader, followed by Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano third, Kyle Busch was fourth, Jimmy Johnson fifth from the pole, Jeff Gordon sixth, Kurt Busch seventh, Denny Hamlin was eighth, Brad Keselowski ninth, and Eric Almirola rounded out the top 10. Final four going to Homestead. They are Kevin Harvick, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr., a kid from New Jersey, from up in our neck of the woods. Fifth in points, Carl Edwards, Joey Logano sixth, Dale Earnhardt Jr. seventh, Brad Keselowski eighth, Kurt Busch ninth, Denny Hamlin 10th with a race to go. It'll be interesting to see how that, at least 5th through 12th, because it's a kind of close there, will pan out. Drivers who did not advance to the championship round of the chase have their point total reduced to 2,000 points, with regular season wins, bonus points added, plus additional points they've earned during the chase. So anything can happen there. They get reset down to 2,000. As I said earlier, the race was delayed from a day race to a night race due to an afternoon rain, and then rain ended the event with 93 laps to go because of a downpour, and you know what? It's official. Let's go home. They'll all be headed to Homestead with a final four. There's no bonus points. There's no leading the last lap, most laps, leading the lap for these top four guys. And again, it's Harvick, Gordon, Kyle Busch, and Truex Jr. It's basically who wins, who finishes ahead of the other 4 guys. That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to pan out. You know, it's funny to look at this stuff, and I'm a firm believer that, and I don't want to say that the outcomes are determined, but think about this. Think about the story finish. Jeff Gordon wins the championship. If you don't think that the powers that be would love to see that happen, not only for Jeff Gordon, not only for Hendrick Motorsports, not only for his sponsor who's been with him forever, but here's a guy going to go out on top. See, a lot of guys don't know when to pack it in. Richard Petty, with all due respect, was probably one of the greatest race car drivers I ever saw drive a race car, albeit on TV. But the man was awesome. He hung on a little bit too long. He just did. Some guys who had a lot of time left, a lot to do, a lot of more accomplishments, got taken away from us way too soon. Dale Earnhardt Sr. When you look at this, when you look at this, you can't script this. You can't put this in a movie. Jeff Gordon announces his retirement, makes the chase with a win. He's in the Final 4. He finishes ahead of these 3 guys. He's the champion. He goes out a champion. Do I really think he's done racing? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to hang around. I don't think he's going to do all this, you know, oh, let me race Daytona, let me race the restrictor plate races, let me do this. I don't think he's going to do that. I do think he's going to be in a race car from time to time. And think about this now. Here we got Jeff Gordon, Hendrick Motorsports. Has a couple other cars sitting there riding around. I'm not saying that they're going to interfere with Harvick or Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but you know what? Let's not go there. I don't have a favorite here. I mean, I do, I don't, you know, for the press that it's going to put out, and I'll talk, yeah, the Jeff Gordon win the championship, that would be pretty awesome. But I'd love to see this kid from New Jersey, Martin Truex Jr. I'd love to see this kid because he's one of our own grown. He was in the trenches with, not that the other guys weren't. Don't get me wrong. You know, they paid their dues to get where they are, just like everybody else did. But I would love to see Martin Truex Jr. take down that championship. Nothing against the other guys. They're all deserving. And I'll say that with all due respect. They're all deserving of a championship. You know, there have been years I've looked and said, why is that the guy doing that? Man, yeah, I don't know. He's not a good champion. But what makes a good champion? You know, you promote your sport, you do the right thing for your team and your sponsors. That's great. But it should be an interesting race, and it's one I'm probably going to try to stay awake from. I fall asleep with these. Well, for those who know me, all I got to do is go like this, and I fall asleep. But I'm going to try to stay awake from this one because I think it's going to be interesting. And I just hope that the announcing team that's on the TV that's announcing this race doesn't just concentrate on those 4 drivers, because there's 39 other drivers who are looking to gain points, to move up in the point standings, maybe pop into the top 10, maybe even try to make the top 20, because that means a lot, because that's how the point fund is paid out of, and there's a big point fund for these guys. You know, let's talk about some of that as well. Don't kill it by only talking about 4 drivers. Don't kill it. You know, and I'm saying this, you know, I mean, these announcers don't watch the show, so, but think about this. There's 39 other teams or race teams that are driving in this race. Give everybody their fair due and talk about some, hey, if this is a guy going for the top 10 in points, this is great. This guy's going for the top 5, you know. I mean, it's pretty close with Logano, Carl Edwards, Dale Jr., you know, Keselowski, and Kurt Busch, and Denny Hamlin. Anything can happen there. Can Denny Hamlin end up in the top 10 in points? I mean, it looks a lot better when you look at your stats later on. Yeah, well, I finished in the top 5 in points in 2015. I finished in the top 10. You know, and I look at a guy, Aric Almirola, who just missed the chase This kid, I watched a show one time, and it was like something about the 43 and the people who drove it, Richard Petty, and this kid I think is going to be around, and I think this kid has gotten better and better and better every year, you know, and I think he'll make the chase in 2016. As to the 9 car at Richard Petty Motorsports, I don't know. I don't know if Sam Hornish Jr. is going to be in that seat in 2016. I don't know. I don't think so. But when you look at who's available to hop in it, that's, and I don't want to say Sam Hornish's caliber, because Sam is not a top runner, but he's not a back-of-the-pack guy either. He ran in some tough luck this year, but I think whoever's going to end up in the 9 is going to come with a sponsor. With Richard Petty Motorsports. Richard Petty has already announced he will have 2 teams next year. He hasn't said Sam is out, but he hasn't said he's in, as he has with Eric Almirola. Eric Almirola will be back in the 43 in 2016. But it's going to be an interesting event at Homestead. It's going to be interesting. Will Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano, I mean, Joey Logano has nothing to lose at this point. You know, is he going to settle up? I'm thinking, you know, CEO and Brian France needed to have a little talk with Mr. Logano here. Not only with Joey Logano, but, you know, his dad, because his dad tends to stir the stuff up in the pit area. And for a while, his dad was banned from the garage area at the Sprint Cup events because of some of the stuff that he gets into. And, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because, you know, Joey Logano needs to learn to give a little respect here. And when he starts giving that respect, he's going to start getting respect. And, you know, you just can't do some of the things that he does. He's not racing at a weekly racetrack where there's no TV. He's racing on national TV in the top series in racing and in America. I don't want to say the world, because Formula One is pretty big everywhere else but here. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out at Homestead. Like I said, I'm looking forward to watching it. And again, I hope the announcers announce the entire race, not just the 4-car race that they tended to do each level of this chase. It was hard when there was 16 of them. When it was 8, that was the only people you saw, and that's the only people they talked about. But now that it's 4, it should be interesting. Anyway, what else at Phoenix? The Xfinity Series was at Phoenix as well. Kyle Busch won from the pole. Brad Keselowski was 2nd. Eric Jones 3rd. Daniel Suarez was 4th, followed by Ty Dillon in 5th. Regan Smith was 6th. Chase Elliott 7th. Darrell Wallace Jr. 8th. Elliott Sadler 9th. And Casey Kane rounded out the top 10. The points in that series with 1 race to go, and it's still mathematically a 4-car race. Chris Buescher is the point leader as of right now with an 18-point advantage over Chase Elliott, followed by Ty Dillon, who's 22 points back. Regan Smith, 24 back in 4th. Elliott Sadler, who's out of a shot at a top 4 even, and let alone a championship, is 5th in points. Daniel Suarez, 6th. Darrell Wallace Jr., 7th. Brian Scott is 8th. Brendan Gaughan, 9th. And Ryan Reed is 10th in points. So there's man, anything can happen here. If Chris Buescher just, and I don't wish this on him, don't get me wrong, blows up on lap 1 and doesn't make it back out, these other 3 guys have a shot at the championship. So Chris basically has to use his head, stay out of trouble, and if he gets a mid-pack finish, he's got the championship all locked up. So, but you know what happens to racers? They put their helmet on, and they're racers. They got to race. They gotta win. They got to go for the win. You know, we're all the same. Come on, let's face it. We get in our race cars. We're trying to win on lap 1. Some of us. You know, we got to win warm-ups some days. I got to pass that guy. He can't be faster than me. You know, but it should be interesting. Camping World Truck Series was also at Phoenix. Timothy Peters was the winner there with John Hunter Nemechek 2nd. John West Townley was 3rd. Daniel Suarez 4th. Tyler Reddick was 5th. Sponsored by Spencer Gallagher 6th. J.J. Haley was 7th. Matt Tiffett was 8th. Eric Jones started on the pole, finished 9th. And Mason Minya was 10th. The points as of right now, the leader, Eric Jones is the point leader. Tyler Reddick is 2nd. Matt Crafton 3rd. Johnny Sauter 4th. Tamika Peters is 5th. Cameron Haley is 6th. Daniel Hemrick old modified tour driver 7th, John West Townley 8th, Ben Kennedy 9th, and Spencer Gallagher rounded out the top 10. So they're all headed to Homestead for the final weekend of racing in the top 3 series in NASCAR. And as Matt Kenseth said to me at where were we? At New Hampshire, and he goes, there really is no off season. By the time you get done and you have your Thanksgiving, it's the banquet, and there's Christmas, and then there's testing and more testing and all kinds of good stuff. So it should be an interesting 2016. Speaking of 2016, the 2016 schedule for the Sprint Cup Series and the top other series, Xfinity and Campbell Road Truck Series is out. Everything will start up at Daytona on February 13th with the Sprint Unlimited, and then the Daytona 500 will be run on February 21st. And then we're back in business. So if you think about it, the off season for the fan is maybe there's maybe 10, 12 weeks. But there's a lot going on. Speed weeks will start up, and we stuff down in New Smyrna, as has been forever. The dirt guys will be down in Volusia. It'll be here before you know it. You'll be here before you know it. And in that off season here, I believe there's indoor midget racing in Allentown the first weekend in, I guess, January, and the indoor racing will be in Atlantic City the last weekend in January. So I will be at the Atlantic City events. I've been going to that for many, many years, attending my first Atlantic City indoor race in 1977 with my good buddy Bill, who got me hooked on this thing, this indoor racing. So anyway, we're going to take a quick break, because when we come back, we're going to be wrapping up. So we'll be back after these words.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, this is Chris Les Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
What's up, guys? We're Scano Fair, and we're here with Inravio. If they catch you at a show with one of these bracelets, you will win $100.
That's a lot of money.
So get a bracelet.
Do whatever it takes to get that. Hit them up online.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
We're back. We are back. So anyway, we're winding down. 2015 is almost a memory. It's only about 6 or 7 weeks left in the year. Banquets are coming up. I'm not going to get into my banquet talk, but banquets are coming up. People are trying to get things in place for 2016, sponsors, rides, equipment, whatever. Swap meets are coming up. Orange County Fair Speedway just had I believe theirs is coming up this weekend, the 21st, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Swap meets. Let's talk about that real quick, because we're going to be wrapping up soon. You know what's good about the Thompson Motorsports Park? They have a huge swap meet every year. Stafford Motor Speedway has a nice swap meet. A lot of the tracks do this, and my local track does it. Big Bob O'Rourke started it many years ago, and I can remember it would be a cold, cold day, and he had this big pot, big, huge pot of chili, you know, you'd eat and warm yourself up. You know, maybe have a little shine in the back too, you know, to help warm you up. But you know what the good thing about these swap meets is? One man's junk is another man's gold. And I can remember walking around these things years ago and looking for something that, you know, something. Nothing partake, it's something. And you're walking by and you see something. Go by it again, you see it. Go by it maybe a third time, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna get that. And you get it, you go out, you put it in your car, you put it in a truck, and you go back. And one year I bought a race car that way. I was walking around and I was contemplating going back racing. I had taken some time off, wanted to raise a family and start a career, but it was time, you know. And I came around walking around and there was this car for sale and didn't have an engine. And the car was really inexpensive, so I bought this car. And I went, and all of a sudden, you know, I have a race car in my driveway. I go out, I get a motor, race, and I had a good time. I got some good memories. But when I was on the other end as the seller, I brought a bunch of stuff done with racing in a weekly level. So I had a bunch of stuff to get rid of, and of course I brought some of my books to get rid of it. I sold more books than I sold parts, but that's okay. But it was fun. I enjoyed, you know what it is? It was December, it's a little chilly out, but you get to talk to people that you hadn't seen in a few months. And that's what it's all about. And I just saw out of the corner of my eye, somebody was saying, if you go to Atlantic City for the indoor races, bring a gas mask. You know, because to some people, that alcohol burning smell is like, it's like baby powder to other people, and or vanilla. And to some people, I mean, I was there last year, and the person that I was with, all of a sudden their eyes were red, they were teary, they couldn't breathe, and they actually were taken outside to get some fresh air, you know. And there's vents in there, and there's fans, and there's all that kind of good stuff, but if you're not used to that, it could be tough. So, you know, I'm not saying bring a gas mask, you know. I mean, if you need to, but be prepared. I mean, they do the best they can with the ventilation. I've never had a problem. I've been going to that race on and off for 38 years, and just get used to it. I can remember going, and I kind of got off when I saw it on the stand. Well, that's okay. I still have time. I remember going to ISO Speedway, my grandfather, and the American Three-Quarter Midget Racing Association raced there. And here's my grandfather, his eyes are tearing. And I looked at him, and I can't say exactly what he said, but basically he said, the doggone alcohol like the burn is burning my doggone eyes. And, and all of a sudden, my eyes weren't bothering me until he said it. And all of a sudden, my eyes started getting all burned and all. And that was outside. But it's a great show. If you've never seen indoor racing, and the three-quarter midgets, the TQs as they're called for short, if you've never been to see indoor racing, along with the champ carts and the bandoleros, or slingshots, I think they're slingshots at the race, the Atlantic City. It's one heck of a good time, and I recommend you go and check it out. I'm not trying to promote the races for them, don't get me wrong, but if you've never seen indoor racing, you might want to go. And I've seen them at Atlantic City, I've seen them at Allentown, I've seen them at the Dunk Center in Providence, and the fumes, the fumes can get. But they are sucking them out, so I wonder how bad it would be if they didn't suck them out. But anyway, when the years winding down, and that's the racing you have to look forward to, and I totally enjoy it, and you're around some good friends, some good people, and you see things that maybe you shouldn't have seen. And you kind of keep your mouth shut. But anyway, that's an inside joke. For some people might get it, some might not. But anyway, the off season. The off season is, like I said, the swap meets. Man, if you have some, you know, I'm telling you, I can remember my Uncle Johnny, and he passed away a while back, but I remember him showing up at these swap meets with whatever he cleaned out of his garage, whatever fit in the back of his pickup truck, and he'd lay it down on the ground, and you know what? He was happier than a pig if he made $20, $30. Because to him, that was a lot of money. Whatever he didn't sell, he'd go bring it to the scrapyard and get another $20, $30. And to him, he'd have $50 in his hand, and he'd have drinking money for a while, you know. You know, go have a couple of cold beers with his buddies. But, you know, you go to these things, there's whole cars, there's haulers. I mean, you know, bring a check. There's a lot of good stuff there. It's just amazing. It's, like I said, one man's junk is another man's gold, and everything's negotiable. I sold a set of scales that were worth a lot of money for a lot of money. And I only brought them because they were in my way. They were in my place. They were kind of in the closet in the way. And I said, you know, if somebody makes the right offer, they can have them. And somebody came up and they said, what do you want for the scales? And I said, what are they worth to you? He said, how? I said, X sounds pretty good. We plugged them in, we found electric, they worked. He handed me the money, and next thing I know, another guy comes up, well, if I know they were that cheap, I would have bought them. I said, you didn't ask me. But anyway, swap meets. That's what we're looking forward to. Swap meets in the off season, banquets, indoor racing, Allentown, Atlantic City, in January. Then Speed Weeks will be right there in February. March, we'll be getting ready to go racing. The top 3 series will be going strong. April will come, the weekly guys start up, April, May. And we're back in this. We're back in this. We're back in doing what we go racing. I don't know what 2016 is going to bring for me. I know 2016, you know, 505 mile will still be around. But we'll still be around talking racing from somewhere. I don't know where, but we'll be talking. It's so good. We got some shows planned for the off season, some good shows planned. So yeah, anyway, but they're talking in my ear, so I guess I'm talking too much, or it's time to go. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for being a part of tonight's show, taking the time out of your busy schedules to come on and watch. Whether you're in the chat room, whether you're just watching, whether you're just listening, whether you're going to catch it in the archives during the week. I appreciate that here at Inravio. They appreciate it. And this is a great thing. I love doing this. I get to talk racing with all you folks, and you know, it's a good thing. So anyway, wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this week, please be safe. Please be careful. God bless you all. We'll see you next week. Tell somebody you love them.